That dua you've been making for months, maybe years. Same words, same tears, same hope. No change, no sign, just silence. And now, that thought you're afraid to even admit. Is Allah even listening anymore? What if I told you that silence isn't rejection? It's an invitation? What if the du'as that seem most ignored are actually being answered in the most powerful ways? Nearly 8 out of 10 Muslims have been exactly where you are right now. But here's the paradox that changes everything. What if silence isn't punishment? What if it's proof that your heart is being trained, not ignored? Let's be honest about how much this hurts. That moment when you've poured your whole heart into a dua and nothing. Ahmed, a 27-year-old engineer, made the same dua for a job every single day for 8 months. After being rejected from my dream position for the 3rd time, I just stopped praying altogether. I mean, what's the point if Allah doesn't answer when I need Him most? Have you felt this too? Type, "been there" in the comments if you've ever been where Ahmed is. This isn't just about feelings, the numbers are shocking. Many Muslims admit they pray less after feeling their du'as went unanswered. Spiritual disappointment is now among the top 3 reasons young Muslims experience faith crises. We live in a world of instant everything. One-click shopping, streaming on demand, food delivery in 30 minutes or less. And whether we realize it or not, that same expectation has crept into our relationship with Allah, what Dr. Rania Awad calls spiritual consumerism. So what do you do when silence is the only reply? When the du'as that matter most seem to disappear into thin air? Call upon me. I will respond to you. Let's go back to what Allah actually promised. Notice what's guaranteed, a response. Not that you'll get exactly what you asked for when you asked for it. Think of dua like planting seeds, not placing an Amazon order. Some seeds sprout immediately. Others need time beneath the soil before they break through. And some seeds, this is crucial, protect the garden by not growing at all, because they would have attracted pests that destroyed everything else. Every dua you make gets answered through one of 3 channels in what I call the divine response framework. Immediate yes. The blessing arrives as requested. Delayed yes. The blessing comes later, often when you need it most. Protective redirection. Allah gives something different and better. The Prophet Muhammad didn't call dua the spiritual wish list. He called it the essence of worship. This completely changes how we understand unanswered prayers. Most of us operate with what I call the request receipt model. Send dua, get result. But Islamic tradition teaches a deeper transformation through trial model, where the waiting itself is the point. Quick question. Have you ever received something you desperately wanted, only to realize later it wasn't good for you? Comment below with "saved from myself" if you've experienced this. I bet it's more common than we think. Imagine a woman who prayed desperately to be married to a particular man. Her dua was denied. A decade later, she discovered the man had been arrested for domestic violence. What she thought was rejection was actually protection. Remember Ahmed who stopped praying? Let me introduce you to Aisha. During her 2nd year of medical school, her mother was diagnosed with terminal cancer. For months, she made the same dua after every prayer. The cancer progressed anyway. When my desperate prayers seemed ignored, I initially felt betrayed, but something told me to keep praying anyway. And the strangest thing happened. Continuing through that silence created the deepest connection with Allah I've ever experienced. This isn't new wisdom. The great scholar Ibn Atta'illah suggested that unanswered du'as serve as divine curriculum, teaching patience, sincerity, and ultimate surrender. It's like spiritual strength training. If the weights never felt heavy, your muscles would never grow. The resistance is the whole point. What if the silence isn't Allah ignoring you, but upgrading you? The believer who has persisted through silence has developed spiritual depth impossible to gain any other way. If you're finding value in this perspective on unanswered du'as, take a second to hit that like button. And if you know someone struggling with their faith because of perceived silence from Allah, share this video with them. It might be exactly what they need to hear right now. Now let's look at something that might surprise you. Muslims who maintain dua practice despite perceived silence have higher overall life satisfaction than those who stop praying. This isn't just spiritual theory, science is catching up. Researchers studying religious resilience found that pushing through perceived divine rejection activates the exact same neural pathways associated with developing resilience and finding meaning. Let me tell you about Khalid, who continued making dua for a child for 7 years before his wife became pregnant. Those years of waiting made me a completely different person. I became someone worthy of being a father. Modern Islamic therapists have identified spiritual abandonment syndrome, that trauma you feel when you think Allah's ghosting you. But here's the breakthrough. Research shows that simply reframing unanswered prayers from Allah abandoned me to Allah's developing me reduces religious anxiety while making people more likely to keep praying. Quick poll. Have your unanswered duas ever made you question your relationship with Allah? Type questioned or stayed steady in the comments, and no judgment either way. So where do we go from here? I've developed a practical framework called S.A.B.R to help you navigate the silence and transform your relationship with dua. S. Shift your lens. Move from expectation to transformation. A. Ask anyway. Continue making dua even in the silence. B. Build resilience. Use the waiting period for spiritual growth. R. Reconnect with Allah as Rabb. Not as a wish granter, but as your developer. Our community faces two possible futures. If we continue treating Allah like a vending machine, we'll see what I call transactional decline, with many young Muslims disengaging from regular prayer within a generation. But there's another possibility, the resilience renaissance, where communities create safe spaces to express spiritual disappointment while reinforcing divine wisdom. In this future, mosque engagement actually increases as Islam becomes known for building psychological resilience through authentic spiritual struggle. This requires shifting from asking, "What can Allah give me?" to asking, "Who can Allah help me become?" But what if that silence isn't Allah's absence, but our opportunity for growth? What if every unanswered dua is actually an invitation to level up? Remember Ahmed, who stopped making dua? 2 years later, he returned to prayer, not to ask, but to thank. The job rejection that devastated him led him to start his own company. The silence wasn't absence, he told me. It was Allah preparing me for something I couldn't even imagine asking for. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, "No Muslim makes a dua that does not involve sin or cutting family ties, but Allah gives him one of 3 things. He hastens the response to his dua, He stores it for him in the hereafter, or He averts an equivalent harm from him." What's a dua you're still waiting on? Share in the comments below. Let's make this comment section a space of shared hope and encouragement. If this video helped you see your spiritual struggles differently, hit subscribe for more content that bridges Islamic wisdom with real-life challenges. And remember to share this with someone whose dua is still unanswered. Your duas always reach their destination. The question is whether you'll keep making them long enough to discover why that silence might be the most profound answer of all. Before you go, this perspective on unanswered duas has helped thousands of Muslims reconnect with their faith. If you found it valuable, please hit that like button, and most importantly, share this video with someone who might benefit from it. Subscribe for more content that brings practical Islamic wisdom to life's biggest challenges. Until next time, keep making dua, even in the silence. Assalamu alaikum.